Well, welcome everyone to today's session where we're taking a look at our updates to our SMSF Essentials course. So this is all about our part of our what we call our Starter Smarter Smartest model and our approach to education. And our Essentials course fits within the intermediate or middle section of that, which is why, as you can see on the screen, we talk about getting smarter today. So we are going to use this session as an interactive session insofar that I'm going to be talking to slides, but I want to take you through the course and the significant changes that predominantly Tim and including myself have put together with the revision of the Essentials course. And what is important to note from the very beginning is we have now, through the expansion of this course, not only in CPD hours, but we have actually expanded the gaps between what is our foundations course content, which some of you may have done before or have inquired about for staff, where that provides 6 modules and 10 hours around sort of foundational level understanding of superannuation and SMSFs and where they fit into something that is far more comprehensive now to ensure that you have the competencies to undertake what we refer to as essential to work within the SMSF sector. So from, I guess, an agenda perspective, we are going to sort of focus on where this course fits within the model and why we've done what we've done in this space, and really the case that we're seeing for utilisation of e-learning as a way in which not only benefits the students themselves, but then also allows for many of you that might be onboarding staff and understanding the requirements of what staff need to be able to not only deliver that in an online form, but in a format that will allow them to ensure that they understand what they need to know to successfully do the job. We'll then explore a little bit about what's changed. So I've already touched on the fact that our CPD hours for this course has had a fairly significant reset. Previously, we were at 18 hours. That number has been increased to 25, and it's not just an increase of 7 hours for the sake of 7 hours. So we will spend some time looking at a bit of a curriculum overview and the updates that have been made and why ultimately they've been made. And then from there, we'll talk a little bit about where we're progressing with not only this Essentials course, but into our Advanced course, and giving you, in essence, a pathway into membership with the SMSF Association, and where you have people that are aspirationally looking to become specialists themselves, an opportunity to look to achieve that as part of this process. I also mentioned already we are going to spend some time going into the course itself and navigating around the new design and how you access content and successfully work through modules and then assessments to get your certificate. And then we want to finish off a little bit to help unpack the return on investment that we see practices get by deploying our SMSF training within your organization. And this is, of course, today relevant for the SMSF Essentials course, but it is much broader than that, not only within our course content, but naturally within other CPD solutions that we provide, and we'll finish off in that regard. So from a course perspective, I already touched on the fact that our model at Smarter SMSF is what we refer to as Starter, Smarter, Smartest. So it's that beginner through to intermediate and into advanced. And originally, our Essentials course was known as our Foundations course. It did have a bit of a complex for a while. But when we brought in Tim Miller, our head of education and technical services, Tim was very quickly able to articulate what components here could be moved down, in essence, into a Foundations course, and what areas were suitable at an intermediate or essentials level. Now, that has been expanded further with the release of some key advancements that we've got in our Essentials course here. And you'll also note we now have a little bit more information to share with you about our SMSF Advanced course because we are expecting to release the first of our two modules around limited recourse borrowing arrangements and a specific one around Division 296 tax in July of this year. So now that we've got finalized the updates to our Foundations course and Essentials course, this has allowed us to really accelerate on to building out that smartest part of the model. Now, these courses are naturally complemented by the regular training that we do. So our webinars that you may attend on an ongoing basis, whether it's our changing face of SMSF, whether it's our SMSF tax planning sessions. We also have masterclasses, which are very much designed at that advanced or smartest level. And then we have in-house training that we provide and our face-to-face events such as our SMSF days that we held in March of this year. So when we look at why we do what we do in this space, so why we rebuilt the platform or rebuilt the course content in the platform, what we recognize is that senior staff spend about 15 to 20 hours ongoing mentoring new team members on the basics and the core requirements for self-managed super funds. So how that knowledge is done and transferred is typically done informally, and it's therefore inconsistent. So it means that every person ends up getting a different version of what they're trying to understand and learn along the way. So from that point of view, the ability to provide a consistent delivery here is really important. So every team member ultimately gets the same authoritative content and ensures that their understanding and accuracy of that is sound as well. Now, we also know that superannuation is changing and changing at a significantly rapid rate. So what this change to the course that we've done, and you'll see it in the design, is that it allows us to move much quicker as law changes happen as well. We've been able to, with this, not only update the requirements for the the contribution changes, but we've been able to reflect those from 1 July 2026 as well, include things such as Division 296. So all these things allow for this to happen and happen quite quickly compared to the formats that we were using historically. So there's a number of these things that you can see on the screen here. And ultimately what we're trying to do is mitigate practice risk. So that practice risk increases where staff don't have that comprehension and understanding of the knowledge, and they're being forced to take a little bit more of that responsibility themselves, which is a good thing, but equally it can become somewhat time consuming. So what we want to do is move those senior staff within the business to go from being the teachers themselves to becoming the mentors and actually supporting the staff to get the work done that needs to be done. So therefore, these sort of module by module approaches allow for people to take advantage of that. Okay, so let's jump into a little bit about our SMSF Essentials course and what it now looks like. So I've already said from the point of view from a CPD stand, we had originally something that was measured at 18 CPD hours. That has been substantially uplifted to 25 CPD hours. Now, we haven't made any changes to the number of modules that we have available. We haven't made any changes to the time frame that you have to get that completed. But most importantly, everything that we have added has been added because we feel there is value in understanding the importance of the changes. And as you'll see in there, a lot of that additional time has been introduced through video-based content where you'll see Tim and I having conversations specifically built for the module, but equally where we've included things such as our Feeling Smarter videos that we run on YouTube on an ongoing basis. Like we had in the original version, all of the module-based content has interactive learning. So there are assessments or validations that occur throughout the module, but it also requires you to complete an assessment at the end to ensure you know what you're doing before you finish that module and move on to the next module. And as is the case already with our courses, more broadly, you then, upon successful completion of the module and the assessments across all 7 modules, you'll then be issued with your CPD certificate upon completion. So we have made an adjustment to our pricing off the back of this. We also, of course, have it available in an enterprise solution for those that have multiple staff and you have your own internal learning systems. We have the capacity to integrate that into that learning management system. Now, what we also have with the SMSF Association as an accredited educator is that any student who successfully completes our Essentials course are actually eligible to claim a period of complimentary membership with the SMSF Association. So that period runs from 1 April to 31 March each year. So it is as much as 12 months. Obviously, if you started now, you'd end up with sort of 10 or 11 months as opposed to the full 12 months, but it is up to $680 worth of value and really helps you to get an understanding and appreciation of what it might be to become a member of the SMSF Association and most likely look to become an SMSF specialist in your own right. And that's really why we are building these types of courses and solutions, because we are quite clearly focusing on those that have an inherent interest and understanding of the SMSF sector. So in terms of who the course is relevant for, it is quite broad. So it is built for accountants and administrators, allowing you to build skill and competency within your firm. That could be not only domestically, it could be offshore where you have offshore teams. We do have a number of clients that utilize both our foundations and our Essentials course for those offshore teams in both the Philippines and India, as an example. For financial advisors, this is a wonderful hands-on course for advisors to be able to utilize and strengthen their knowledge. Again, we work with a number of dealer groups where those dealer groups require those authorized reps before they receive that status to be able to complete an approved course. Our course here is in essence on an approved product list for them to go off and ensure that they understand their way around self-managed super funds before they move in and advise. And then we have a broader catchment of other SMSF professionals. Again, we work with a number of audit firms who, again, utilize this as part of their ongoing training for their auditors, again, both domestically and offshore, and other experienced practitioners who just might want to use this as a knowledge refresh. For example, it might be just understanding changes to contributions or particular tax requirements, et cetera, et cetera. So it is quite broad in terms of what we have built and intend on having application for different professionals. So hopefully as we work through this today, I'll be able to share with you what that ultimately looks like. So let's get stuck into now what's changed as part of our 2026 overhaul. And there are really 2 key things that I wanted to highlight here that you'll see as new. So the first is Module 1. So Module 1 has had a complete rewrite and design. So what we've done is we've really separated that content from what looked quite similar to our foundations course. So now this module looks at and focuses on things around the SMSF definition and the expanded definition, the advice framework, licensing rules, suitability requirements, ethical behavior, and so forth. So it's in essence that follow on from what was covered or what is covered in our foundations course. The other thing, naturally, that has had a fairly large footprint on our SMSF sector over the last couple of years is the now finalised Division 296 tax laws. So we have introduced content into Module 5 that covers how these laws will work. Again, pitching this at an essential level of knowledge, what you need to know and understand around these rules without actually going into the absolute detail, which would form part of the advanced course. And then we have, as I mentioned before, fully referenced workbooks that cover one in each module. All the modules look consistent in terms of how they are designed. They again have a consistent approach to CPD assessment at the end of those. And all of those modules have been updated in essence through to April 2026, including where we have updated things like factors around contribution caps and transfer balance caps and the like from 1 July 2026. And all of that stuff sits within the changelog. So I might take this first opportunity to go across to the changelog and show you just, I guess, the level of detail that we've gone to with this. So whenever we actually make changes within the course, we do narrate in here within our knowledge base change log as to what's been happening. So what you'll see in here is what has actually happened within there and the fact that it's new activity or it's a new section and what that covers, how it's then reflected in module 2, module 3, module 4, etc., etc. So you know categorically if you've been working through it, you might not have finished it yet. You might also be just wanting to understand, your understanding is certain things have changed. It will line that up as part of this process as well to ensure that you have a complete and comprehensive understanding of everything that has gone on. And as you can see here, as I'm scrolling through, there's a substantial amount of change that's actually gone on in here, right across, in essence, all 7 modules that you can see there. So let's jump back to our slides and we'll get into shortly our actual demo itself. But what have we got across these 7 modules to help you understand ultimately what we cover off? So module 1 really locks in on, as I mentioned before, the definition, looking at the residency tests, the requirements of Australian Superannuation Fund, the requirements to ensure that the fund maintains its complying status. It explores obligations around trustee duties, licensing, suitability, and ethics. So that's about 3 hours of content. Now, what I should say is, even though we have assessed hours here amongst each of these that make up our 25 hours, it's not uncommon that we will see people work through modules at very different levels of pace. So what I mean by that is if you are strong in your contribution knowledge and understanding, and you can get through that knowledge and that module within, say, 2 hours and pass the assessment, you've been able to demonstrate competency. Okay, so in that regard, tick and move on. But as a financial advisor might not have as much strength around taxation of SMSF and member benefits, and whilst we suggest that there's 4 hours of training in there, the way in which e-learning is structured allows you to go at your own pace. So therefore, if the individual wants to take 6 hours, 10 hours, whatever the case may be, explore every piece of reference material that we include in there, ultimately the goal that we want out of the successful completion of the course is to validate your knowledge and understanding of each of these modules. So ultimately what we have here is a mapped level of CPD hours based upon the content and the complexity of that content to come up with an accredited CPD set that allows us to assess that. But by no means are people bound by the allocation of hours here, but rather it's in essence a guide for you to work through. So our other modules that you can see here, again, take that step up from, in a lot of instances, the foundations course, so our contribution rules and investment rules and paying pensions and so forth. So these things move from basic concepts into, again, more essential things that you need to understand around the investment restrictions and around how benefits can be paid and what type of benefits can be paid and the consequences and reporting obligations that might happen within a fund as well. And then again, sort of concluding in an estate planning context, dealing with superannuation death benefits and winding up the fund and so on and so forth. So let's get stuck into now our SMSF Essentials course and really show you around the platform so that you can get an understanding and appreciation of what these key changes actually look like. So what we've got here is I've just logged in to our Learn part of the platform. So for those of you that work in our documents, naturally you use the app switcher to move between the different parts of the platform here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into courses, and then subject to the course that you are currently working on, you would then go in to access that relevant course. Now, again, as part of this change, we've made a fairly comprehensive update here to help you to understand the particulars. Again, the 7 modules, 25 CPD hours, the fact that you can access the change log from here, the complimentary period of membership that comes after the back of it, some detail about that you have 10 questions as part of each of the modules, that you require an 80% pass mark, and you got 3 attempts. So there's very much a consistency as you work through each of the particular modules here. And then as we go down here, you'll see the detail to the module itself and then the assessment that sits within this. So what you can see here and what is different to what we had previously, our previous content was more slide-based, converted into e-learning. So we did have audio over it. We had a combination of video, some written materials with the reference workbook and the like. But what we've done in here is it's a little bit more text heavy, but far more interactive around some of the other items that we do. So it is mobile responsive. It is responsive to your screen. It allows you to hide the navigation. And when we play here, you'll see that this actually comes up again in an e-learning environment that will allow you to, again, if you want to collapse these sort of structures and stuff, it will allow you to do so. And then you can start to work through the particulars of the module and then get to the bottom of that page to continue and navigate through. So for those of you that have seen the course historically, you would understand many of these slides or pieces of information have been pretty much transcribed over to here. We do then have a resources section, so you can click to download the relevant module, workbook and so forth. And these module workbooks, again, are very comprehensive. So the module workbook here that we have is about 33 pages and covers all those things that we spoke about earlier there. So when you work through, again, we've got our course change log. If you're wanting to sort of view historically what's changed over time, you can do so. And all of the various references that we have throughout this module are available in here. Again, if you want to drill down and look into some of these topics more specifically as well. And again, as you sort of click through these, we've got references to other videos and information that we feel will be valuable to you to understand as you work through this module. Now, one of the other items that we've added into here is at this very beginning here is to really help you to move the needle in the context of our smarter, and smartest approach. So the behaviors in here that we sort of talk to are such that, you know, where you might feel that we haven't touched on something, it might be quite deliberate because that has been explored in our foundations course, and we'll reference back to that being the case. But equally, if there's something where we kind of draw a line in the sand about a topic, well, the reality is we will recognize that it's something that's going to be explored further as we move along in the advanced course. So we have started to integrate that into the language that you'll see within the course as well. But as you work through these, you can see the continue button, and then it will take you into the relevant topics. Now, one of the key things here with the change is that you're going to see quite regularly these interactions between myself and Tim on the particular topic. So in this instance, this discussion is going to all be around why the definition matters. So that you can see there, it's about expanding 6.5 minutes on these core conditions, why it matters, the impact of the complying status of a fund, what happens if that status is lost, so on and so forth. So you'll see these on an ongoing basis, but you'll equally see us come in where we're talking about a number of topics that would be relevant to here as well as part of our Feeling Smarter. So once you start to listen to these, watch these, read and more, it's giving you more meat on the bone to understand really what we're trying to highlight for you in the particular topic. And again, we've got examples within here. We've got topics such as disqualified persons, and we talk to particular case law. You can see sort of these warnings or other pop-ups that would be relevant to help you understand topics. And again, case studies and the like as well. So again, there's a huge number of things in here to help you to understand, naturally validated as you work through some of these topics. So as you sort of get through section 1 here, it will allow you to pick up and actually look at testing your knowledge around the way in which this works, and it will validate the decision that you have on that and let you go through those questions to ensure that you've understood it. Before you move into that next section, you've got a clear understanding of in this instance, the structural compliance of the SMSF definition. And again, we do that through things like residency risk. You can see that through some timelines around particular conditions. So these are not basics that we would have as assessments in our foundations course. There's a little bit more detail that you need to get here to ensure that you understand what the relevant questions are and topic is to ensure that you're doing absolutely the right thing as well. So once you finish, in essence, that module, it will allow you to then mark that as complete, and then it will require you to naturally go on and complete the assessment. And again, quite simple insofar that it is consistent that you have 10 questions. There is a pool of about 15 to 18 questions. So if you don't get it right the first time, you're not necessarily going to get the same 10 questions that you need to go through and complete again, but it will allow you to work your way through this. We give you a sufficient level of time that if you need to kind of go back and reference, you can do so as well. So again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time going through each and every one of these modules, other than to say that the design and the approach to both the module itself, but then also the assessment is in essence one and the same. So again, if we look at our contribution rules here, we can hit play, we can collapse the sides if we want to do that, and then we can get stuck into the actual contribution rules and so forth. So if we have a look at something like the non-concessional rules here, you can see that we've already captured as part of this the fact that we've got the current or the indexation that we know is occurring to that, and the fact that that will then have application to the bring forward rules. And again, Tim and I have a conversation about that, and then what that means in the upcoming year, and some examples to support that as well. And I guess the final one here that's just worth highlighting is, again, we've spent some time as part of our tax module looking specifically at the impact of the Division 296 tax measures. So in that regard, if I just go up to the top, open up the navigation, so you can see in here, we've got things such as NALI, but again, we've got a specific topic on Division 296 and what all that means for clients as well. So when these regulations get registered, which we expect before the 30th of June, again, we'll be able to provide a little bit more detail to that information. And this environment enables us to make these changes much quicker to publish to live in a much faster way than we've ever been able to do before. So yes, it is a little bit more text heavy from that point of view. A lot of that information that you see within the workbook itself is in essence also reflected within the content as you work through it here. But it is flavored here with a lot more detail interaction videos and the like to ensure that those answers and responses really implant back to you to ensure that you can successfully navigate the assessment and get that done in a timely manner. So that's probably about all I needed to share about how you navigate around this. So it would require you, as I mentioned before, to in essence mark complete each of those modules that you work through, complete the quizzes, and then once they are all marked off, and you'll see the little colors that go around that, then in essence what will occur is you will be redirected back to the main page. And on that main page, you will be able to download your certificate at the top here. You will also receive an email from us saying, congratulations, you have completed the course. Reminder to get that link. But most importantly, it will give you some next instructions should you wish to go and obtain your complimentary period of membership with the SMSF Association as an associate member. So, which again is valued at $680. So that takes us really from the live sort of share point of view. I think that predominantly covers everything that we needed on that front. I guess thinking about this and looking forward around why we see regular inflows of our members and clients looking at our course content. Because what we see quite regularly is an example like this, where we see accounting firms, we see financial advice firms and so forth onboarding staff. And this may be onboarding domestically. Again, it could be onboarding offshore. They might have some levels of experience. They might not have any at all. In recent times, we've had a new boutique AFSL holder onboard 3 or 4 new authorized representatives. Now, they arguably have a level of knowledge and competency within the SMSF space, but what the licensee requires them to do is to demonstrate that to them by virtue of completing our course. So we do see varying approaches to this, whereby if you are bringing on staff, quite quickly we can see hours disappear from within the practice, not only across the individuals that need to get upskilled, but seniors that they report to up the food chain on a very consistent basis. So if we use this example in here where the partner's spending about 20 hours per staff member over a 3-month period, providing that on-the-job training and support that that person needs to be able to successfully do the role. Now, the problem with that in some instances can be that each staff member receives very different and informal versions of how the rules work and how it's going to ultimately be done. And therefore, there's some inconsistencies in that approach because there's no structure ultimately to that training. It's kind of, we've got a job to do. This is how it's done. Move on. If you want to look at some stuff, maybe jump on the ATO website or, sort of get yourself up to speed in that way. So there's no formal validation. And therefore managers can't be sure that staff know what they know until potentially they pick it up in the review work, which again, you're starting to sort of chase your tail in terms of the time and opportunity cost. So there is a genuine practice risk that we see here. So the client receives advice from staff that might be operating beyond their knowledge. Now, you might have a caveat within your firm that that doesn't happen in any event. But what we can very quickly see is this accumulation of money being trickled down the drain because, yes, sure, you're investing in the future of your staff, and that's a really important piece to do. And we see the really strong firms investing regularly in their staff, but they're not necessarily the one that's doing that work. So they're giving staff a budget or they're utilizing a budget and bringing the staff into a solution like our SMSF Essentials course or like our SMSF Foundations course, or even in the future, our SMSF Advanced course. Because in this instance, each of these 3 team members are going to get a consistent approach at 25 hours of structured e-learning that they can complete over a 4-month period. And again, there's a consistency to that with up-to-date materials that every staff member that is trained to the same authoritative standard. Okay, they get to work through the modules. They might work through the modules together. So you can get to the end and have a bit of an assessment, bit of a mentoring session with the partner or managers in that regard. But again, this is something that you as a firm have complete trust and understanding that Smarter SMSF as an accredited educator will be able to deliver something that will ensure that the team can come on board and come on in leaps and bounds. So what we are really focusing on here is to reduce risk, ensure that staff can apply knowledge correctly from day one. And rather than it costing a $60,000 exercise, in this instance, it'd be sort of less than $2,500, plus naturally the opportunity cost of the other levels of support that they would need, but nowhere near what we've seen there. And we have one really wonderful case study that we see on a very large scale, and that is the work that we do with BGL Corporate Solutions. Many of you will be BGL clients yourself. Their support team is anytime a new member comes on, whether it's domestically, whether it's offshore, they go through one of our courses. And what we see is things like the comment we got from Doug. Now, Doug's a product manager now. He was the support manager. But what we see is every time that these new staff members come on throughout the year, they get huge benefits from the value of what that content delivers to be able to do their role and talk to you as professionals if you're a BGL client to support them. And to them, it's like if they've gained a month because of that onboarding process, it's not having to be channeled through the training team. They can go on, they can work it at their own pace. They get together, they collectively discuss stuff, interact how it works with their role within the support network at BGL to ensure that they can do their job. They've got the understanding of the complexities of SMSF, integrate it back to the solutions that their product provide, and away they go. So to us, that's one of the real standouts for us. And we've got a whole range of those, not only at a level of a business size like BGL, but it can equally be applied where we see it into practice in suburbia and in the cities right around Australia. And I think finally, just what's worth noting is, again, when we see students going through our SMSF training, in particular our courses, we don't see that as the end of their education journey. And this is why within our Starter, Smarter, Smartest model, we ensure that we have a series of ongoing solutions available to ensure that people not only keep up to date with their obligations, that may be a requirement of their professional bodies that they work with as a financial planner, as an accountant, as an auditor, as a tax practitioner, and so on and so forth. But we can deliver that in a multitude of forms through quarterly technical updates. We have that through subscriptions at either a individual or business basis to access any or all of our training throughout the year. And then naturally we have masterclasses and other face-to-face events that, yes, through a subscription you get access to, but you can also sort of get onto those on an ad hoc basis as and when they happen throughout the year, like we did with our SMSF days in March of 2026. So if you want to find out more about our SMSF Essentials course, we have just given our paid course pages a fairly large refresh as well. So you can see here the detail around our Essentials course, who it is essential for, who it's built for, the complimentary periods of membership. You can see the detail here. If you want to find out more, you can access those. You can also download the PDF, and the PDF provides you with far more specific detail as to what makes up each of those modules and the hours that are relevant to that as well, what you'll walk away with, and then in essence, just confirmation as to how it's been built, I should say, and any questions that you may have off the back of this as well. So I believe we are at the end of today's session. So hopefully that has provided you with some key insights into not only the course itself, but really where our focus is around delivering SMSF education to the industry. So specifically, our Essentials course wasn't really there just to simply bolster up from 18 to 25 hours. It gave us an opportunity to take a step back and look at a complete rebuild of the hours and the modules and so forth. And we really feel now it has a much greater practitioner slant to ensure that you can do what you need to do successfully. And most importantly, to ensure that when you are bringing on staff or you've got staff there, that there's some structured learning that enables them to get a consistency in approach and ensures that the managers of the business are not, the opportunity cost to them is nowhere near as great as what it would be if they were a trainer, but rather becoming a mentor and ultimately reclaiming back time, billable time, ultimately, where at the moment, it can become somewhat of a strain. We see this pathway as something that's really important as an accredited SMSF educator in this space. Our foundations to essentials model, the fact that you get complimentary period of membership to the association, and we then are working with not only aspects of our essentials course, but also into our advanced course to provide recognition of prior learning that will allow for you to then register, enroll for the SMSF specialist designation, where you would be required, in essence, to do some assessment and some group work to obtain that specialist designation. But there's a really clearly defined pathway to get there through the solutions that we have in the Smarter SMSF education environment. And ultimately, Tim and I believe, with our combined skills, we are building solutions here that enable you to tap into the knowledge. It's 50 plus years now. That's why there's a little bit less and a little bit more grey on the hair as well. But we know and have worked in this industry for a hell of a long time. We know and understand where the rules are, why the rules are doing what they're doing, and then how that relates back to you and the work that you need to get done for your SMSF clients. So if you do have any questions in respect to the course or any of our education, I've got David's contact details on there. He is our sales and development manager, so you can give him a call or get in contact with him via email. Otherwise, we'd be delighted to have a chat to you. We encourage you to find out more, not only about our Essentials course, but more broadly, our education solutions. Thank you for joining me today. If you do have any questions, I will hang around. But other than that, have a great rest of the week. Take care and bye for now.